Welcome to Are You Killing It, the podcast powered by Peak Performance Partners, where our mission is to help your business achieve success faster. I'm your host, Dr. John Ronaldo, and each week our team of business experts bring you the tools, insights, and strategies you need to kill it in your business. No fluff, real talk to fuel your growth. Here we go, guys. Are you killing it today?
Killing it.
Killing it.
Yeah.
Killing it.
Let's
Here we
go.
go.
Let's go, episode 12.
The energy you all bring to this is incredible. It makes it a lot of fun recording with y'all. As usual, I'm joined by the owners and founders of Peak Performance Partners. I got across from me Patrick Stewart. Patrick, what's going on, my friend?
Life is good.
Life is good?
Yeah,
I keep
feeling
using the
good.
word thriving. One of my students uses the word thriving, and now I'm using it all the time. So Kevin Hernandez is also here. He just did a reflective bow. And then we got Ricky Navarre, who is just going to point at you. So
Let's go.
let's
If
go.
you're on the radio, if you're on the podcast, you're not seeing.
I love it, but that's okay because we're filming and we're recording. All right. Today's episode of Are You Killing It? We're going to talk about one-on-ones with purpose, the secret to stronger teams. We're going to talk about one-on-ones, what makes them valuable, how they work, how they don't work, and I'm just going to lay everything on the table here, guys. I said it before we started recording. I'm going to say it now. I believe that this is one of the most important magical tools that any business can have in terms of being able to communicate to team members, to hold team members accountable, to help team members grow, and that is one-on-ones. And I'm super passionate about it, but I'm also excited to hear what you all are talking about out in the space as well. So we're going to spend some time talking about one-on-ones. So I'm going to start with you, Patrick, in your experience. Why are one-on-ones so valuable? Why should every company be doing one-on-ones with every single direct report that they have in their building?
I think it closes the gap of communication, because what happens is we go through and we're always assuming everybody understands what we're expecting of them and what our expectations is of us. And when you have the one-on-ones, you're able to go reality, where the expectation, you're able to close that gap. If you've got it organized and structured right. I think most people probably do it wrong, and I think that's one of the things that I'm sure we're going to be uncovering in here, but I would say that's the importance of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Kevin, what are your thoughts? What makes a one-on-one so valuable in your own experience?
Well, you have your finger on the pulse, truly. And if you're doing the one-on-one appropriately and you're doing it in the same structure, because I believe what you're going to get into is the structure of the one-on-one. I totally believe in the structure of a good one-on-one because there's basic things that you need to put in place and be consistent about when you're talking to your direct reports.
Yeah, absolutely. Ricky, I'm going to ask you the same question. What makes one-on-ones so valuable?
One-on-ones give you an opportunity to get feedback, kind of what Kevin said, keep your finger on the pulse, but I also like that it gives an opportunity for coaching and mentoring. It's a development opportunity.
Yeah, I agree with that. And that's a perfect lead in because for me, one-on-ones really at the end of the day is about relationship building, right? Because the most important relationship in any business is going to be the manager and the managee, right? The supervisor, the supervisee, the direct report, and the one managing them. And so if as a business owner, as a vice president, as a director, whatever role that you're in, if we can implement really good one-on-ones and help build strong relationships between the two most important people, right? When I go to work, when you go to work, the most important relationship you have in that job is your boss, right? And that's true for all of us. And so I think it's on the impetus of the manager to take control over that and make that relationship strong. What are your thoughts on that, Patrick?
Yeah, I think, again, it goes back to that emotional bank, right? Because what happens is so often we overdraw on that bank account.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
So what you've got to do, though, before you can withdraw, you've got to deposit. And you've got to do a lot of depositing, and in that one-on-one, you're able to do that. You're really able to become real and uncover, hey, where are some of the shortcomings of the relationship or of the person, and then you're able to say, okay, hey, what tools do you need? Do you have the right training? Do you have the right equipment? Do you have the right software? Do you have, and then and how can the organization help you? But I think it just truly is like, it's depositing. So now when it goes time to withdraw, you've got plenty of emotional bank set up that now you can withdraw from that.
The beauty of that, Patrick, is that if you don't have a relationship with your boss, you're not going to tell them what areas you're lacking in terms of tools or skills or whatnot, right? And so again, it goes back to maybe it's a power play type of thing, but it really is on the manager to take the lead and make that happen. And it's about growth, right,
It is
Kevin?
about
It's
growth.
about growth.
Absolutely.
Right?
And again, it's an opportunity for you to understand how someone is thriving in their position, right? Because again, a lot of people that are in their positions, there's gaps. And if you don't have that relationship to understand what those gaps are, and that's how they help you and your organization grow, right? And so, yeah, for sure.
Well, certainly is. Yeah, go jump in, Ricky.
I'm going to throw one other thing that I really like, and a lot of people, I think they miss it, is it's an opportunity for the manager to learn how to serve the team member, right? If I'm managing an individual, I want to learn, hey, what do you need from me to manage you better? Versus a lot of people coming as that manager and saying, hey, I'm above you, you're the employee, I'm the boss, do what I say, and they try to say, hey, what can I help you and what kind of tools do you need? But at the same time, it doesn't negate or take away the fact that the manager is also still growing and developing, and how can I serve? And if a manager comes in with that, hey, as a one-on-one, let me just pour into you and tell you and talk at you, right, and ask you a couple questions of, hey, what else can I do to help make your job better? But how can I be a better person for you? And that whole relationship comes to that trust and vulnerability of, hey, just because I'm your boss, right, doesn't mean that I have all the answers, but help me make it better so that we can grow together and let's move up, right?
Well, and certainly the counterintuitive part of that is if you help your team succeed, you're going to look good as a manager, right? And I think that's sometimes what we forget. And it's not a positional thing. It's not a power play, right? The idea I'm the manager, do what I tell you to do, that's not going to get you any sort of collaboration or any creative thinking in terms of that. And so if I'm serving, to your point, right, if I'm being a servant leader, then in the end, we're going to achieve our goals and we're going to look dang good, right? And we're going to get the results that we're trying to do, not only in our department, but in the entire organization.
But I also believe you're going to get ahead of a problem that's out there that, you may be sheltered from, right? And again, if you're not a good listener, if you're not participating actively in that conversation and allowing them the room to communicate back to you.
Well, and to your point, the further away you are from like the customers, right, the more you're not hearing the truth. And so what you're saying there is I'm going to hear more people who are closer to the ground, which is ultimately our customers, our clients, and hear from them so we can adjust and make this happen. Patrick, what do you think are the biggest mistakes people make with one-on-ones?
I think they don't have a desired outcome or goal of that meeting, so it's not structured or organized. So they just go in, they're just going, oh, John said I need to be doing one-on-ones. I'm going to start doing a one-on-one.
And then what does that look like, right?
So, yeah. So then they're like, so how are you doing? How are things going? What's or they have an agenda that they're trying to, they're trying to manipulate the other person in that one-on-one. So they always got the hidden agenda. We've all probably been around somebody that every question they ask is a quote unquote loaded question that you're literally like, okay, where are they trying to go with this question? And what are they trying to say instead of coming right out and say it, right? And so I think that it's not having the desired goal, and then just I think you need to set up some type of framework of, hey, this is why we're having the meetings. This is how the flow of the meeting's going to go, and this is the desired outcome from this meeting.
I'm going to add to that accountability. Again, if people have something out on the table and they're responsible for it, that's a great place to receive some accountability, right?
Ricky, in your experience, how often should we be having one-on-ones with our direct reports? What's the kind of the best pattern and habit for us in meeting one-on-ones with each of our direct reports individually?
If you can, once a week. If your company organization allows for it, once a week, because you want your finger on the pulse, and kind of if something needs to be corrected, you can address it much sooner than if you do it once a month. A lot of people at the very least do a once a quarter check-in. But if you can get down to once a week, it shortens from, hey, now let's talk about what happened over the last 90 days to let's just get down to the quick meeting, quick nuggets. Let's talk about the action items. Let's go execute, implement. Do you need anything from me? and make it fast and move on, right? I do want to chime in on one thing that I think people miss in their one-on-ones is they take the one-on-one and instead of it being a performance or an opportunity to say, hey, what do we need to work on and how are you doing? They turn it into an update meeting. And it ends up being, hey, so tell me, how was it last week and how was the clients? And it just turns into an update versus an actual one-on-one coaching.
Specific.
Yeah.
Sure.
Coaching session.
Yeah, absolutely. Coaching, that's a really good word to kind of use, is that one-on-ones can become an effective tool for coaching your own direct reports, right, in terms of making that happen. And so what does that look like, right? You already mentioned it, Patrick. What are the tools that you need to succeed? If I'm not listening to you, I wouldn't know what that is. Quarterly, I think that's a long time, right?
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing too.
In your experience, Kevin, how many direct reports does a typical manager have? I know lots of companies are all over the place, but
Yeah, it
any
depends
sense on that?
It depends on the size, right?
Yeah.
I mean, anywhere from 1 to 15.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And 15 could be a little bit much, right, to meet weekly. But at the end of the day, if we're talking about 30 minutes once a week, which is what we recommend, if you have about one direct report, that should be no problem. You could put aside 30 minutes. And I think what's interesting for me is that you actually save time on the back end if you have weekly one-on-ones with your folks, right? Because here's the reality. You're the manager, right? And you can go talk to your direct report anytime you want because you've got the positional authority over them, right? And so when you know this, when you have a manager drop in on you, when your manager drops in, you drop everything you're doing to listen. But that's not same in reverse, right? So it's not like, I can go up to my manager and interrupt him anytime. Knock, knock. Hey, boss, do you have a few moments, right? It's like, no, they may not, and so what happens is that when I don't feel empowered as a direct report to be able to have a relationship with my manager, I have a whole list of things that I need to bring up to him. But I have no venue to talk about it. And so I take any opportunity I can. I see him walking down the hall. Oh, Ricky, do you have a few moments? I need you to talk about this, and this. Can you give me this? And you're on your way to a meeting or you're about to go to lunch or a phone call or whatnot. And you're like, that's not efficient for you, for anybody, right?
Yeah, no, that's the open door policy.
Yeah. Does that work though? It works one way, it doesn't work the other. Right? That's exactly it in terms of the positional thing. So, and I certainly recommend 30 minutes is kind of the way to go, right? And so there's kind of a process to that, 30 minutes. I've been in one of the ones that have been longer, and sometimes they end up being shorter because we're meeting every week, and we don't need the 30 minutes, and so we save some time. But at the end of the day, when you've got 30 minutes each week that that each of your direct reports is going to talk to you, you're going to save interruptions.
Yep.
Right? You're going to save people knocking on your door when you're in the middle of something else because they know they're going to get to you. And I create a little list. I say, I got my little list for Ricky when I meet with him one-on-one next Tuesday at 10 a.m. I say, I'll bring it up then. And then we're all more efficient and effective in terms of making that happen. So communication's better in terms of that.
And I like what you said because if you do it right, issues that don't need to be brought up, they can wait till next week, then get put to next week. Instead of, if you don't have that structure, anything and everything suddenly becomes urgent, right? I need an answer for this now. I need an answer for this now. I need an answer for this now, as opposed to bring me the things we need to talk about that are 3 alarm fires today, right? And if it doesn't need to, then let's talk about it next week. And then it gives you that structure and continues to keep that efficiency.
Can I just say something? As a small business owner, if I'm a business owner and I'm almost like wearing all the hats and I have people and you want me to do one-on-ones, right? Where does that fall in the Eisenhower matrix?
Help explain the Eisenhower matrix.
So that urgent and important, urgent not important, and so where, as a business owner, how do I create that time to have those one-on-ones?
Well, think about it. If you've got, let's say you have 6 direct reports, right? And we're talking 30 minutes each. So you're talking 3 hours a week on a normal 40-hour work week schedule. Most business owners are working more than 40 hours, but we're talking about 3 hours, right? That's a small amount of time that's going to have a huge impact. So on the Eisenhower matrix, I would say often one-on-ones do not fall in the urgent category. but they are very important,
Yeah.
right? Because of the time that you're saving and the amount of communication that's happening, the accountability and the growth that's happening as you help your team grow. But when you think about it, I got 6 people, which is not unheard of. 3 hours? You tell me you can't find 3 hours. Okay, maybe on your calendar this week and next week you can't find 3 hours. But if you say, hey, we're going to start one-on-ones a month from now or a month and a half from now, I bet you if you look at your calendar 6 months from now, you have 3 hours in that week that you could put one-on-ones.
If you break it down, other than maybe on one day you double up, that's 30 minutes a day if you have 6 people, right? You can't break out 30 minutes a day and then give somebody else another 30 minutes. So you have an hour on one day and then 30 minutes for the rest. But to your point, Kevin, I understand exactly what you're saying. When you're like, I'm a business owner and I don't have enough time as it is already.
Right. But these are the type of things I think you got to make time for. Right. I mean, I think that's the point, right? In terms of the important thing, it's not urgent. And what's the one thing that will always cancel? Are one-on-ones when something comes up, but that's a problem. But that's actually not a good practice. Now it's one thing to cancel it, if it's on Tuesday and then hey, something came up, which is bound to happen. If I'm meeting with you, Ricky, every week on Tuesday at 10 a.m., something comes up that we got to go deal with. Great. Hey, do you have time tomorrow, Wednesday at 10 a.m. to replace our time? Yep, absolutely. So I can do that. Right? I don't recommend having one-on-ones on Friday, by the way, because if you have to cancel one on Friday, you just lost the week. You got
or Mondays.
Let's meet on Saturday. I agree, and we don't schedule one-on-ones on Mondays simply because people are just getting back in the groove. Especially those that are kind of traditional Monday through Friday schedule.
Yep.
You get back in the groove. First thing you want to do is check your email, catch your phone calls, catch up on all these things. Last thing you want to do is have a meeting in the first 4 hours of your day on Monday. Yeah. By the way, it's also good advice for a staff meeting. Never have it on a Monday.
Yeah.
Right? No? Am I wrong? Am I wrong?
That's when ours are.
Oh, ours are on Mondays, dude.
That's how we start our.
Did I just call y'all out?
Yeah. 8 o'clock Monday morning.
All hands on deck.
All hands on deck.
Gets us going.
Well, maybe we need to rethink this. Look, guys, you can't script what just happened right here. This was totally unintentional, but such a beautiful thing. Yeah. This is the power of podcasting, right? Oh my God. Absolutely. So in your guys' experience, right? What does structure look like? Ricky, you started talking about this a little bit. What's on the agenda? What should be on an agenda for a one-on-one?
I would say one of the things you want to know is, hey, do you have what you need? All right, is there anything urgent and important that we need to discuss that you need support with? Anything that we need to talk about? And also, how can we continue to grow you and groom you into the next position? Not next position, but to do their job better are some of the things I would put on there. I kick around. What else would you guys add?
Yeah, so I would add current projects that you're working on, right? Any kind of development that I'm actually working on or the employee's working on to begin with. The feedback loop, for sure, that's a big one. Any type of collaborative things that are going on that, and then just updating in general.
Yeah, I would say, again, on a scale of 1 to 10, how are you doing personally? On a scale of 1 to 10, how's your department doing? And then how full is your tank? And it just, again, asking those personal questions to kind of understand, hey, where are they at? And then how can I help them in those? Because it'll start some conversation.
I love the personal thing that you just mentioned because, sorry to interrupt, Ricky, but there are things that go on in people's personal lives that affect what happens in work life. Yeah. And I think the one-on-ones is often one of the best places to allow people to expand on, hey, a kid's sick. Right, and so I've been having to deal with this. I have to take them to a doctor appointment. Kind of, great, that's good to know. Take care of family first, right? Go ahead and take care of that. Or their mother passed away, or something like that. Like one-on-ones are often some of those places that you find out about those things first, and that allows you as a manager to change your behavior in terms of how you're going to support them through that time. So when they continue to still be productive, but at the same time, give them the space that they need when stuff hits the fan, which sometimes it does.
Yeah.
But what happens when you have a high S and they're emotional and they want to bring everything to that one-on-one, right?
Well, what's the purpose of a one-on-one?
Well, I mean,
you
got to set up some guidelines.
This is the high D talking, right? So Kevin's high D is like, we got to get straight to business
exactly
here.
Right,
Don't give me this fluffy stuff, right? But if one-on-ones are about relationship building, we got to at times allow for that space.
Sure.
And this is going back to some of the DISC stuff we talk about. Know your own default behavioral tendencies and adjust as necessary for what your direct report needs. You're the one with positional authority, so it's really up to you to be able to make some adjustments to make that happen. And look, most of the time, your entire one-on-one is not going to be personal relationships. Even the high S's know, hey, we got to still talk about work. So that actually does not happen very often, but it does happen.
I think it happens more than you believe it.
Oh, really? Well, we should get some data on this. We should get some data on this.
I'm gonna kick this over to you, John, because this is actually one of your specialties, is one-on-ones and performance management. And so, what would you say goes into a really good one-on-one?
Yeah, I would say one of the big things is you got to give them the onus of helping create the agenda for the one-on-one. And I use agenda loosely because we're not doing a weekly printed agenda for a one-on-one, so that's not the whole point. And so the way I go about doing is I kind of follow the 10-10-10 rule. And I stole it from some book somewhere along the way. But 10-10-10 rule, I got 30 minutes. Break it up into 3 10-minute slots, give or take. A lot of flexibility, though. The first 10 minutes is theirs. I let them take the lead for the first 10 minutes to talk about what? To talk about whatever they want, Kevin, including the drama maybe going on in their lives that might be affecting their work, right? That doesn't maybe it happens, right? But most people will eventually get to work, right? But still, there's value in that. And I let them know when I'm talking with them and orienting them on how I do one-on-ones. I let them know the first 10 minutes ish is yours, right? And so talk about whatever, right? And so typically it's always work. And I usually start off the meeting. For me, this is John's style. I say, okay, tell me what you got. And almost every one-on-one I have starts with that. Tell me what you got. And that's their cue to know that, hey, this is their 10 minutes. Let's go. Sometimes it's 5 minutes. Sometimes it's 15 minutes. But I let them go however long they need to. If they need the entire 30 minutes, then I'll let them. Because you know why? I can go knock on their door later because I've got that positional authority and bring up anything that's still on my agenda. They don't have the freedom to do that with me. So if they need 30 minutes, I'm going to give them 30 minutes. But typically 10-10-10. Whatever they want to talk about. Now, what happens for me is they end up talking about most of the stuff that I want to talk about anyway. So then I don't have to worry about it. So the second 10 minutes is me talking about the things that are on my agenda, right? We're talking about status updates, what's going on with this, that, or the other, how's your team doing, whatever it may be. I'll bring those up. But oftentimes, when I do my little prep, and every week on my task list, I've got prep for, Patrick one-on-one. And it takes me less than 5 minutes to prep for a one-on-one, right? And same thing, prep for Kevin one-on-one. And I write down the little things I want to make sure on my notepad that I want to make sure I bring up to Kevin. I want to make sure I bring up to Patrick. And then I bring that up. But again, most of it's covered. And then the last 10 minutes, I would say, is the growth stuff. Now, we may not always get to this last 10 minutes, and that's fine, because sometimes they need 15 minutes, I need 15 minutes, cut off 30 minutes, we're done. But again, going back to what areas of growth do you need, right? Where do you want to go? How can I help you? Going back to the servant leadership part, are there conferences you want to attend? Are there resources I can give you? Are there books I can give you? And again, this doesn't happen at every one-on-one, but I put it on the agenda to make sure that every once in a while we'll continue to talk about growth, and to make sure the growth conversation doesn't happen once a year at the annual performance evaluation. It should be happening a lot more often, and including one-on-one. So that's how I would structure one-on-ones, and that's actually how I structure one-on-ones. So
I like it.
There you go.
There's your nuggets, you guys. 10,
there
10,
you go.
10.
So 10-10-10. That's all you need to do. Hey, can you share an example? I'd be interested in any of you guys. You guys have been doing this for a long time, consulting and working with folks and have had your own teams. Can you share a specific example of when a one-on-one has transformed a relationship between a manager and a direct report? Is there something that comes to mind that the one-on-one really transformed that relationship in a positive way?
I'll say one. So there was a one-on-one that I was a part of, and it was transformative for all parties because, again, I was trying to lead as best as I could, but this was much younger and just kind of, I had the chip on my shoulder, like, hey, I've made it, I'm in charge, so I'm going to try to drive this, and here's the goals. And again, I took the goals and my high D and, again, my high I and my high D. I was just running so fast that I didn't give the person the time they deserved. And at the same time, I was not as clear as I could have been, and I didn't really tap into what made them amazing. And so one day, I just kind of got called out, and they're like, "Hey, listen, I know we're coming into this agenda, but I just want to ask you, are you open to changing it up a little bit?" I was like, "Okay, I'm coaching. Let's see where this is going." And one of the things that I realized in that moment is kind of almost like the 10-10-10. It wasn't specifically 10-10-10, and when you said it, I'm like, oh, that kind of brought me back. But it really was that moment of saying, hey, here's kind of what I'm going through. Here's what's going on. Here's what I need some help with. Can you help me? And I said, yeah, what? And then it opened up for me to start asking more questions. And that moment is what shifted because I started to seek to understand before being understood. My previous leadership style was seek to be understood, go execute, go do what needs to be done because here's the tasks that need to be done. So let's go get it, right? And my one-on-one was pretty much an opportunity for me to give you more tasks to do, right? And it shifted and allowed me to have more empathy when things were tough, and I stopped judging and figuring out like, hey, why is this person late by 5 minutes? Because they were always early, and I started getting really frustrated. Like, this person's always coming in 10 to 15 minutes late, but again, I didn't seek to understand versus being understood. So I would just talk at him, and it was really rubbing me the wrong way. And so as things shifted, I found out this person's like, listen, the things have shifted because I'm down a vehicle, and I have to take my son to school, and so that's the reason I'm late, is because of traffic. And I was like, oh, so you're not doing this on purpose. And I just asked him, like, okay, so if I adjusted your schedule by 15 minutes and just let you come in later, and would you stay the other 15 minutes? They're like, yeah. And we found that win-win, but a lot of that has shifted, and that's what, for me, it was an amazing relationship of, hey, let me see you as a person, not a number. You're not just the employee. You're deciding to give me your time, talent, effort, energy, yourself. I want to respect that.
And that's the transformative power, right, of one-on-ones. And what it could do not only for the one-on-one relationship that you have, but for your entire culture. Right? As we look to try to get everybody aligned in the same direction and make things happen, there's accountability, there's communication, but there's relationship building. Mm-hmm. And it builds a culture that will help your business achieve success faster, which is ultimately what we're about as a company.
That's what we're about.
Great Peak, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Well, I think we're going to have to come back to this topic at some point. Maybe that's just me saying that because I love it so much. But this is so good, guys. Thank you so much for another episode here in the can in terms of talking about one-on-ones. And again, helping our listeners and viewers, achieve success faster. And we hope that all of you are killing it in your business today, tomorrow, and in the future. Keep coming on back and joining us. Subscribe if you have not done so. And keep seeing what we got for you in the Are You Killing It podcast. Thanks so much, guys. Have a great day.
Let's go.